Hey everybody. Today's date is Monday. To think about what day of the week it was. Monday, December 9th, 2024. And I decided that tonight I'm going to go ahead and go live and ask a couple of questions, right? Number one is, how long does it take you? And number two, what would you do? I'm going to actually be playing an audio, and this audio is 6 days before my illegal and unlawful arrest and imprisonment. And it's actually calling the police department that orchestrated all of that and asking for permission to be able to return my daughter. Right? I was getting threats. Thank you so much. Me Too Family Court. Appreciate you. Good to see you on. And I was asking for permission to be cleared of failure to protect because at that point, as my daughter was seen in the doctor's office or urgent care on the 21st, and x-rays were done, other dynamics were found, and I was, basically given the prescription to put her on steroids, antibiotics, and treatments that lasted for 5 days and 10 days. I had a doctor's note. My family court order actually says if the child is not being returned for any reason, then my responsibility is to simply notify parent A in the situation at this time, that's her father, and the school, which I did. And of course, I did that also with her doctor's note from the 21st to the 28th. And then took her back on the 31st after she finished all of her medication to have her rechecked, right? And this time they did an x-ray and asked me, hey, is it possible that she has sustained some type of throat injury? And of course, unfortunately, she had reported on October 15th that she was jerked by the back of her shirt, her garment, lifted a little bit off the ground, and that definitely, yes, there could be some throat injury there as well. And so based on medical advice, based on the fact that minimum there was medical neglect over a 2-month period, times when he refused to send her medicine, times when I left medicine at school and he went and confiscated it and then refused to give it to her. Definitely that allowed a lot of infection and other things to brew in her chest, already documented. So this is not mom's word, me. This is not my daughter. This is medical records. And then, of course, there were x-rays that showed that there was a narrowing in her airway at her larynx, her voice box. And so with that, again, like most parents would do if their child is sick and needs to be on steroids and antibiotics and they're struggling, not sleeping well through the night, coughing, hacking, having a difficult time, just being a mom and trying to take care of my daughter. Unfortunately, if you're in family court and dealing with certain personality types, you don't have the right to do that. So I was starting to be threatened by dad's attorney for contempt of court. And definitely I was also being threatened by that point by the school with truancy, loss of credit. Now, of course, I had sent communications asking as soon as they said she needed to be treated on the 21st, hey, how can I go ahead and still do assignments with her, do work with her? And they just said, even though the whole country has gone through COVID and found ways that kids can remotely learn, there's no options. We'll see her when she gets back. And originally, they were very kind and understanding and supportive, and we'll get her caught up. And of course, as unfortunately the condition that was allowed to be created and intensify in her 2 months back with her dad, as that drew on, then of course, there's legitimate concerns. I had them as well. But as a parent, we think about more than just academics. We think about the totality of our child. And if urgent care says there is a narrowing in your child's airway, they need to see an ENT specialist, we need you to put her on steroids, antibiotics, and then you go back and the infection is cleared, but the narrowing is still there. And now we need you to escalate to breathing treatments and even over-the-counter anti-inflammatories. When you get that kind of advice as a parent, you're thinking about more than just their academics, because what you're thinking about is, quite frankly, respectfully, grades don't matter if their health is not intact and something more serious happens. And so I took all my cues from doctors and x-rays and medical reports and prescriptions, but You know, again, if you're in family court, oftentimes a mom, oftentimes dealing with personality types that are committed to control you and the child by weaponizing the family court and associated systems, you don't get that right to be just a mom. And so basically, as I was being threatened and I knew I was in what I call the child protection catch-22. That's where in both Texas and Oklahoma, as is in many states, you have a mandate to protect your child. They call it a duty to protect. You also, if you don't have and exercise that duty and that right under criminal codes, family codes, as well as child protective services law, then you have what they call failure to protect or neglectful supervision. And you can actually be criminally charged and lose your children for recognizing that some form of neglect has occurred, some form of abuse has occurred, or you have reasonable suspicion. Look, we're not investigators, so it's actually not up to the public to definitely do a full-blown investigation and make sure that they're sure that they're sure. They say if there is good faith suspicion that abuse and neglect has occurred, number one, definitely in Texas, we have to report it. Number two, as parents, we have a responsibility to protect them. Now, you will hear in this audio that I'm getting ready to go through how definitely an officer from the same department that had the arrest warrant issued, how they confirm that, yes, you do have that duty. And no, we're not releasing you from failure to protect if you decide to return her, but you basically just have to make a decision. And so as it is an impossible choice, in air quotes, for many, I'm going to ask if you can chat. I see chat on Instagram. I don't see it live showing up on my StreamYard from Facebook, and I'm so sorry about that. I don't know if I'm going to be able to fix that or not. It tells me while I'm StreamYarding to probably not open my Facebook as well. So for those of you that are joining us on Facebook, I say us because there's others here. I'm glad to see you all. Then definitely if you're commenting, I apologize if I don't see your comments, but I'm going to ask at what point, how long does it take you to get ridiculously frustrated with the conversation? And then I'm going to ask you to also chat and chime in with what would you do? And so without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and try to share my screen and put it in presentation mode. Now on Instagram, you won't see my screen. Hopefully you will hear it. This is my first time ever doing this. I'm not specifically identifying the officer that I'm talking with. Quite frankly, I mean, he was kind. The conversation was a little bit frustrating, but I'm not asking anyone to contact them, and this is not the officer that is responsible for my illegal and unlawful arrest. So I do want to put that disclaimer out there, not asking anyone to take any action, just kind of going over this with me. So for just a brief moment, I'm going to move my Instagram screen. I'm trying to share a screen here. I think I've got my media player. I'm going to hit share and see what happens. Okay, so those of you that are joining me on YouTube or the StreamYard screen, I don't know how it's appearing or how this is going to work. Hopefully you're going to hear sound in a moment. And I'm going to actually ask if there's any of you that can maybe do a thumbs up when you hear it on Instagram to please do that. So it is quite extensive. Jump on, jump off as you need to. I'm basically making the recording and I decided to do it live. So please comment, please chat. Would love to hear from you. And let's see if you can hear it. October 31st, 2024, 9:15 p.m. Central Standard Time. Getting ready to call the Colony PD and see if they want to give express consent to return her back to abuse and neglect. I'm going to stop for just a moment. If there's anyone on Instagram, are you all able to hear at all? Don't know if you can hear. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and try to move forward anyways. I hope it's a good, clear recording, but we'll find out. And I'm going to have some dinner while we do this too, so feel free to join me if you haven't eaten. I'm going to move it along a little bit. Are you all able to hear it all? Can you hear? Are you able to do maybe a thumbs up in the chat?
Hello, can you hear me okay? Okay, great. This is the non-emergency line, right? Okay, great. I'm sorry, who am I speaking with? You said Kevin, you're a dispatcher? Okay, I just wanted to make sure I'm hearing you okay. I'm in transit, so it's really low. Yes, sir. Is there a supervisor I can speak with briefly? You said a dispatcher or what? Supervisor. Probably a patrol. No, I've spoken with, I wish I could remember his name. I don't have it off the top of my head. He may be working at this time. His last name starts with a B. He's a supervisor there. Yeah. He is on duty? Yes, I think that's who I spoke with on the 21st. Yeah. Is there any way you can patch me through to him? Sure. Marlena, Marlana. Last name Christopher, CHRSTOPHER. Phone number is 405-896-0922. Okay. Is who else is working with him tonight as supervisor? Is it Woodard again? I'm sorry? It's just him tonight. Okay, great. All right. Well, I appreciate it, Kevin. Thank you so much. And can you spell his name for me? Sure. VOWEL. Okay. Thanks so much, Kevin. Appreciate you. Okay. Thanks. Bye-bye. 3 minutes, 19-second call, ending at like 9:57 p.m. Central Standard Time. Kind of the medical neglect situation about a minute or two ago with the Colony Police Department. Spoke with Kevin at dispatch, non-emergency number, to speak with Lieutenant Sergeant Bell, BOWELL. He actually is the sergeant I spoke with on October 21st, 10 days ago, about situation with Mariah, where unfortunately her dad engaged in medical neglect, leading to further issues within her chest and throat, and then also choked her by jerking the back of her shirt and lifting her off the ground. All of this, of course, took place prior to or on October 15th. And over the last 2 months, when I spoke with him before, he told me to just be prepared to explain to the judge, why I'm not returning her. And, I'm just going to have to actually say that he was overdosing her and refused to send the meds. But it looks like he's calling back already. Val, can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can.
Okay, great. Hi, how are you doing this evening?
Hey, what's going on?
Yes, sir. I don't know if you remember, I spoke with you briefly. Yeah, on the 21st. Okay, about my daughter.
Mm-hmm.
So where we are is she had x-rays on the 21st of her chest and her neck. And I explained kind of the medical neglect situation, the infection that was present on the 21st. They had a treatment plan for multiple meds that I was, giving her over the past 5 to 10 days, where it does look like the infection is gone. However, when they did x-rays, they also noticed that basically she has kind of like airway stenosis. Basically, she has a narrowing of the airway at her larynx. So I don't know if you know at all what that means, but you just imagine someone's airway is open and clear and a normal size, and then all of a sudden it clamps off at the top. That's basically what's going on. And so they recommended that I have her seen by an ENT specialist or just PCP. They did the referral appointment set. That'll be next Tuesday. But in taking her back, because she's still having, after doing all the meds, she's still having a lot of the same symptoms. They did the x-rays again today, and basically when we were getting the x-ray done, the technician said, is there any possible chance that she's had any injury to her neck? And I know I just kind of probably mentioned it in passing when we were talking that, yes, her father had basically pulled her shirt from the back, choking her and lifting her off the ground on October 15th. The fact that she was looking at it again and she felt like it can also be injury related in what they're saying on the x-ray, that it's not improving with the meds. Of course, I mentioned that to her, and she said that, yes, injury is a possibility, or, of course, further escalation because of, what was allowed to continue medically for, 2 months. So at this point, here's my dilemma. I mentioned before, there's family court orders in place. As you said, got to be prepared to explain to the judge why she's not going back in accordance with court orders. But then there's the whole duty to protect thing. So at this point, I want to get clearance if I am to send her back, because again, I'm not playing full-time attorney. If I do send her back basically to an environment where she has continued to be denied meds and just told to shut that up, and even now been choked, strangled, is the Colony Police Department willing to accept liability if I go ahead and return her to school and Dad picks her up and something worse happens? She doesn't.
We're not accepting liability for anything. So, you returning your daughter to her father is a decision you're going to have to make. That's not up to us. If you're wanting to report neglect or child abuse, we will take a report, and it will be investigated by one of our detectives, and forensic interviews will be done, and all of that. But we're not taking liability for anything. If you want to file a criminal report, we can do that. I'll get you over to one of our officers, and the officer will take a report, and then the entire thing will get investigated by a detective. But as far as like you returning your daughter to her father, that's something that you're going to have to make a decision on. If you want to do that, or you feel like it's safe to do that. If you don't feel like it's safe to do that, then you do what you feel like you need to do. But that's kind of where we're going to stand with that.
I mean, I understand your position. I understand, police and CPS are never going to say, yes, violate court court order, but is the law still that I have a duty to protect if I'm aware of abuse and neglect to not put her back in that environment intentionally and knowingly? Like, don't I face criminal liability of all of this that I know? And they're showing on x-rays and asking specifically, hey, is there any chance of injury? Well, because I literally didn't even mention it to him because I didn't think about it. I knew she had the cost situation going on. So, but again,
if you feel like there is child abuse going on, that he did some sort of damage to her throat, then you need to file a criminal report.
Okay.
Okay. I can't advise you to keep your daughter. I can't advise you to give your daughter back. I'm not going to advise you one way or the other. I'm not an attorney. So those are all going to be decisions that you have to make.
But I mean, is the law that parents do have to protect their kids, otherwise is that still the law that they cannot intentionally?
Yes,
okay.
You have a legal obligation to protect your children.
Okay, so here's my other thing is, again, I didn't call it in. A mandated professional did. The CPS has a report. I'm working with Oklahoma. I live in Oklahoma. She's supposed to get a forensic interview out here in Oklahoma next Tuesday.
For what?
But they're not Denton County CPS, which obviously is the one investigating it. Like, they literally are refusing to contact me back, and we're like supposed to be in the middle of an investigation. So if you're saying that it makes sense to make sure that it's officially reported to law enforcement as well, I don't mind doing that. The issue is, now she's actually been put on 4 new meds that they want me to do. And again, this is going to require someone that's actually willing to do medication as prescribed. And he has proven he's not. He's proven that literally when I send prescription meds, he will confiscate them from the school and refuse to give them to her. Like, this is all stuff we've gone through in the last 2 months. And so, like, literally, they sent her with a breathing machine today.
What? Let me ask you this. Okay, what would you like for us to do? I can't sit here and give you legal advice. If you feel like there's medical neglect going on, there's all these different things going on, and you feel like there's a criminal side to it, maybe he's abusing her, he's not giving her the medication that she needs. What is the CPS report and forensic interview in Oklahoma for? Did you already file a report with them?
So that was basically because the choking incident came up, as well as, unfortunately, I guess they were having a sex ed conversation at school that prompted some conversation about her grandfather sleeping with her, basically with his bare penis on her body. I didn't want to call. Again, I don't want to make these reports because I make these reports, mom's lying and making stuff up. If it were up to me, to be honest, I would not report another thing to police and CPS for the rest of my life because it always backfires. And I'm not the one who did it, but a mandated professional reported the choking and the man's
regulations already being investigated.
Well, what I'm saying is it's not. They're refusing to contact.
But it is. So if she's going to do a forensic interview in Oklahoma, there's an Oklahoma law enforcement agency that has requested that forensic interview. And then what will happen is once they get the case and they figure out jurisdiction, they'll send us the case.
I'm going to stop for just a moment. I don't know if there's anyone out there that can send a message or a thumbs up and let me know, are you actually hearing our voices okay? Are you being able to hear it? Hopefully. And hopefully if it's not coming through as great on Instagram, hopefully at least it is on the StreamYard. So I'm going to go ahead and continue and keep going. Definitely feel free to comment.
Well, no, it's kind of...
Thank you, Julie.
So the way it's been described to me, it's kind of going backwards, is that because it went through... It was an Oklahoma mandated professional that called the Texas CPS hotline, obviously because their address is there in the colony with Dad. Then Denton County CPS got the case. Again, I didn't call. They asked me to talk to the screener because the screener had some questions for me. I complied. I called back. Screener said, absolutely, based on what we were told by the mandated professional and by you, it needs to be investigated. And they were forwarding it to Denton County. And I said before, you know, basically they've said there's nothing we can do to protect your daughter, so take her to a counselor, do whatever you want to do. Like, and they just don't respond. And that screener told me, well, if that's what's happening in Denton County, you need to call and ask to speak to a supervisor or program director. Well, I thought, you know what, give them a minute. They're busy. Don't say anything. Give them time. So I waited. You know, the report was made last Monday. Talked to the screener on Tuesday because I was asked to call back. I cooperated. I waited Wednesday, Thursday. Finally, it's late Friday afternoon last week, and I called Denton County CPS and said, hey, I've been advised that there's a case. I've also been advised by the hotline screener to ask for a supervisor or a case manager, so I left my information. They called back. It was a caseworker that called back. And I just said, actually, you know, my request was to talk to a supervisor or a program director, and she says, one caseworker handling it. I hadn't heard from them all week. So then she says, well, you know, we understand that she's safe out there in Oklahoma with you, so we have to send it to, or they said an Oklahoma, they said an Oklahoma caseworker tried to reach you. I said, well, nobody's called me. I've worked with them before. They literally came out, you know, just a few months ago. They call me, I call them back. And she says, well, and I said, so what is the Oklahoma caseworker's name and number? And she hung up on me. And I called her back, left a voicemail, and basically, in leaving that voicemail, she called me back early Sunday morning, finally gave me the number to the Oklahoma caseworker and her supervisor there in Denton County CPS. I literally called on Sunday, the supervisor. I've now sent at least 2 or 3 emails. Supervisor's not contacting me back. I mean, we now have a case that has gone 2 full work weeks. They just seem very interested.
This is what I'm going to advise you to do. All right.
Okay.
If you feel like there's a criminal offense, you can file a criminal offense or criminal report with one of our officers, and it'll go to a detective, and they will investigate it. What's your daughter's name?
Mariah Johnson, Moriah. Last name is Johnson, JOH.
Spell the first name again for me.
Mariah, Moriah. Last. No, Oklahoma did. Go ahead. Sorry. So Oklahoma did. Okay, sorry. Yeah, no worries. I would say, so Oklahoma, they did respond. Like, you know, they were very responsive before Oklahoma responded. They did say we have to get permission from Denton County to see if they want us to do a forensic interview. She contacted me back and said, yes, we have a house out here where we can do a forensic interview. And that caseworker has been on leave Wednesday through Friday. And then someone from that forensic interview place did say they have availability for next Tuesday. Someone from DHS is going to contact you back and set up a time. Well, I got that email, I want to say it was a day or 2 days ago, and I hadn't heard from anyone, so I emailed her back and I said, hey, you know, I haven't heard from Oklahoma or Texas CPS to confirm a time for next Tuesday. I really need to do that because she also has a doctor's appointment for the specialist. I need to bed down a time. And they just don't seem to have any interest in investigating this. The problem that I'm running into is in not taking her back, now it's creating a school issue, right? Because she's been out of school. Because I know as soon as I return her to school, that picks her up. She doesn't get the treatment she needs. She probably gets retaliated against for speaking like she has before. So do I want to make a report? No. Has a crime been committed? Of course. Has neglect been committed? Absolutely. Indisputably now. That doesn't really need, I know it needs investigation because that's the process. Has that already been established? Yes. Right? Not mom's word, not child's word, x-rays. Right, medical. Are you still there?
Yes, I'm listening.
Okay. So, I mean, has all of that occurred? Yeah, it has. I mean, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it, but do I think it's actually going to result in anyone protecting my daughter out there in Denton County? And no disrespect to you, sir. This is kind of how it goes. And so at this point, you know, that I'm being told, well, we can, you know, just send her back. I mean, and I want to work with the school, but when I specifically put prescription meds in their hands and said, Dad doesn't want to give them, I don't want you to get into, you know, I'm not asking them to get into anything with Dad. I purchased a separate bottle so she can at least get meds when she's at school. And somebody called him to pick them up, and then he denied them to her. So now I can't really even trust the school if I said, let's figure out a plan that that's going to happen. Because for some reason, they call Dad, and collectively they deny her meds and tell her, take your cough drops out. No, she doesn't need to see the nurse. No, she doesn't need prescription meds. And after they all did this for 2 months, she had mucus plugs growing in her chest, and she has airway narrowing where her larynx is closing. So if I had not worked with her PCP to find this out, sorry.
So you need to contact an attorney. All right. You also make a decision on whether you want to file a criminal report or not. Detective Barfield, it looks like there was a CPS referral submitted on October 21st to him, and he has an open case on it. So I don't know if you've heard from him yet, but Detective Barfield has a CPS investigation that he's working on right now. So what I would refer you to is him.
Okay.
So you need to call him. And
do you have a case number with the police department for that?
Yes, it's 2024
Okay.
16447.
16447. Okay, so 2024 16447. And you said Detective Barfield?
Yep.
Is this James Barfield?
That's him.
Yeah, no, I haven't heard anything from him. I have his email address. He has mine. What? I'll take care of that in a minute. Yeah, no, I haven't. That's what I'm saying.
It honestly sounds like you have a lot going on, and I mean, it sounds like you need to get an attorney, and you need to start making decisions on what you want to do. I mean, I can't sit here and give you legal advice. If you want to file a criminal report, we can do that. If you feel like there's been, you know, some sort of child abuse, it sounds like that the strangulation is probably already being investigated. I was a detective for several years. I investigated these offenses. I investigated family violence. So I'm pretty familiar with the Children's Advocacy Center and how forensic interviews work. So what I would say is that if there is anything that comes out of the forensic interview that indicates that there is any kind of abuse going on, we work hand in hand with the CAC, and they will let us know, and a criminal investigation is going to be open.
Okay, I mean, I've heard what you advised is just fill out a report. I don't have a problem doing that. I guess at this point, I know you guys can email the sworn statement, and I can fill that out and send it back to you all. I have no problem doing that at this point. Just because I haven't heard from it, at least you guys have that. If you can email it to me, just to, you know.
Do you want to talk to Barfield on? I don't know if he's working tomorrow. You could try to call tomorrow, but Monday.
I think it's probably. I was going to say, I think what's probably best, since he's had it since the 21st as well and hasn't contacted me, I think it's best for me to just put in writing whatever I need to say. And then that way you guys have it on file. And again, if he wants to contact me, just like anybody else, they know how to reach me. So I think
what I'm going to do is I'm going to have our dispatch this call to one of my officers, and they will call you, and they will talk to you just to get some basic information from you, and then they will likely send you a witness affidavit for you to fill out. Then they'll submit the case.
Okay,
So,
that sounds good. Is it Detective or Lieutenant Supervisor Bell? I'm sorry.
yeah, so I'm a sergeant.
Sergeant, I apologize. Yeah, I'm okay. Sergeant Bell. Yes, sir.
Yep.
That would be fine, sir. I'll just fill that out, and at least you guys have it. I actually have talked to an attorney. I haven't officially retained her yet, because again, the stuff is, I can't spend money. I can't be a full-time attorney. I can't spend money I don't have because of things that Dad is choosing to do. I mean, it just doesn't make sense, and it's not feasible. But yes, I have talked to an attorney that, quite frankly, former judge, and very confused why action hasn't already taken place. So I'm aware of what should be happening, but I also I'm kind of
It just takes,
open.
like I just explained, like it takes action on your part. You're saying all these different things of like, yeah, there's an allegation for strangulation. There's, there's medical stuff going on, but like we talked, when did we talk? 2 weeks ago?
The 21st. Yeah, it was the 21st.
I mean, and also child custody stuff is super murky water. Because I mean, I don't know. Do you guys have a custody agreement?
Well, we don't know. We don't have a custody agreement. We have custody
So
orders.
that's what makes it even more murky. Is
right.
Like I'm currently going through a divorce, right? Like literally, I just signed my final decree 2 days ago. Everything in there is there's legal wordage on what I can and cannot do. Right. And so because you guys don't have an agreement on what you can and cannot do, he has just as much legal authority to do anything and everything medically that he wants to do with his daughter or not do, right? But now when you get into the side of like, okay, hey, is there some sort of injury or something like that occurring because of the failure to do certain things, right? That's where we get involved and we have to look at it, and it goes, we have to go talk to pediatricians and doctors and say, hey, do you think that this is a possibility? Now, you're talking about the doctor saying like, hey, does she have an injury for her neck? Yeah. Is there a possibility that she had an injury to her neck? Yeah. Is there an equal possibility that it's just related to being sick? Yeah, maybe, right? I'm not a medical professional, but are those all things, right? Now, in the criminal world, we as police officers have to base things off of probable cause, right? Now, when you go to court, it's beyond a reasonable doubt. Now, now I just introduced reasonable doubt as could it have been from the strangulation, or could it have been from just, her being sick or having some sort of medical thing going on, right? And now, was her condition exacerbated because he didn't do this, and this? How do we prove that? Right? You're gonna have to get a medical expert to get up there and testify that, yeah, because he didn't do this happened, and they're gonna get a medical professional that says, well, just because he didn't do that, it didn't mean that it did this and this, right? So, it's a very, very, very like murky area on everything. But now if you go get her, if she goes to a forensic interview and she says, yeah, this happened and this happened and this happened, and we have evidence of those things happening, and we can corroborate the things that she's saying, then we may have a case. But there's a lot of different things that have to happen and a lot of follow through that has to happen in order for us to legitimately do something.
Right. And I mean, and you are absolutely correct, and I'm aware of all these dynamics, and I guess what I'm saying is, I don't get a paycheck from taxpayers as law enforcement or child protective services to do any of that with experts. That's not what I'm paid to do. I'm a mom, right? And because I'm a mom and because there's been custody history, and anytime anything gets said, it backfires and I'm making stuff up and trying to get the kid from dad. Like, I don't even want to participate, to be honest. But I also know the law, and I know that things are continuing to get worse, and I don't need a law in my child's name. I understand that this is not the first time that he has jerked her from behind. I understand when he did it before, it burst and created blood in her eye, and that was reported by the school. And one of the officers there at the Colony PD came and told her, "Dad has the right to discipline you." Again, I don't want to fight with the police department. I'm exhausted, to be honest. Sergeant Bell, I'm exhausted. I don't want to live in a place where every time he does something that I know falls within the lines of abuse and neglect, and I just try to protect my child. Now, his attorney's in my inbox, and you can't just keep her whenever you want to. Okay, I'm not doing that. You all have watched me with her kicking and screaming. Tell her it's okay. She has to go. We have to comply. You all have watched that. So you also know it has nothing to do with me just deciding that I'm going to keep her whenever I want to. Now, our court order actually has a provision, and I sent this to everybody. I haven't heard from them since. The provision is that at the end of my time, she's not being returned for any reason. My responsibility under that court order is simply to notify parent A, which is dad, and the school, which I did, which I've done, which I've continued to do. And I'm even giving updates on what's happening. She's been seen. This is what's showing up on the x-ray. This is the medication she's taking. This is how I'm doing more than honestly I have to, right? So I don't wind up with all of a sudden, oh, mom's just keeping her and we don't know what's going on and interference with child custody and she's withholding her. Like, it sounds like you've gone through the dynamics personally, and as a law enforcement officer, I'm aware as well. So I don't want to do this. But when all of a sudden I get communications from the school that says, okay, now we're looking at loss of credit and truancy, I'm like, well, what do I need to do? That does not mean that all of a sudden I have the capacity to become a full-time attorney. Again, I have to pay bills. I have to take care of my daughter. I've got other things to take care of. I got a dead son that still isn't buried yet. I mean, I have a lot going on. I cannot become investigator and hire. I mean, again, that's what police and CPS do. And so again,
I'm not sure to be the investigator. I was just trying to explain the whole process and the way that.
Oh yeah, no, I know. Yeah, I didn't feel like telling me that. Just saying.
Yeah.
That's where I am. I don't really want to, but I feel like I'm being squeezed at this point that I have to do something. And so I thought, you know what? Maybe this means nothing because the sense of urgency in anyone contacting me is pretty low. Nobody's contacting at all. And so I thought, well, let me just ask them for express consent that says there's nothing to see here. Because if there was, we probably would have been reaching out and I could take her back. And if something more serious happens to her, then at least I'm not responsible, and police and CPS said it was fine. And I understand why, as a department, you all don't want to take that liability because people report child abuse and neglect over and over and over all the time, and then kids get killed, and then it's a whole big mess, right? And I don't want any of that either, but I'm being squeezed. Sergeant, I don't know what to do. So I think, based on what you've shared, the situation, it's probably best that I just do the written statement so it's on file. Again, if they want to reach out to me, they have my email, they have my phone number. I'm always responsive. And we go from there. I mean, it's an additional full-time job when your child is sick like this, making sure that you're taking care of them around the clock. And now we're going into breathing treatments and more oral steroids. And, I don't know what anyone wants me to do. What I would prefer is that when she's with dad, she's safe and there's not threats and there's not abuse and there's not neglect and we just co-parent. That's what I would prefer. But unfortunately, I have no control over what he does or doesn't decide to do. And I'm not trying to control that.
I've taken this information forward to get your custody stuff amended, or like an emergency order put in place.
This is probably where I need to go and have to go. I've been trying to hold that off, and I think just with the school situation, I think I probably have to do that. But again, I personally don't want, I mean, I've told his attorney multiple times since this happened, please feel free to file something against me, right? Tell the judge I'm making it up. And when I show up with medical records and x-rays confirming what has happened, with Karen the last 2 months since she left me and was fine, then maybe we try it that way. Because if I go in, I'm high conflict, right? So again, I'm not trying to drag my feet. I'm trying to take care of my daughter. That's what I'm trying to do. But
okay, what I'm going to do is I'm pass you off over to, it'll probably be Officer Keys, and he will take your information, take a statement from you, and then send you a witness affidavit for you to fill out. Okay. I'm going to give him, let him know what's kind of going on, and then he will be giving you a call shortly. Okay.
Okay. I do have a question about that, on that, because I know that, yeah, attorneys can file them, DAs can file them, parents can file them, but I also know police can file them. If you all, for like EPOs, emergency protective orders, until we get further information. Because again, I mean, here's the thing.
Emergency protective order would be if he was taken into custody.
If who was taken into custody? If Dad was taken into custody?
Yes, correct. That's the only way an emergency protective order would be filed.
I mean, here's what we do know 1,000%. Okay, I mean, you may not know it yet, but here's what's already documented and evidenced, and we don't even have to wait on the voice of the child, is what is going on that is very serious in her airway now is either the result of his medical neglect or his strangulation. It's one or the other. So I don't know that it really matters because both are not okay. And it's even documented, the neglect, when I'm, like even today, I'm at the doctor and I'm emailing for background history information that they're asking me to properly treat her, no response. Right? So again, hey, I'm at urgent care and the doctor's going to ask me this about what no response. The only time you respond is say,
with that being said, we're not able to go arrest him like right now, right? If there's an investigation that has to happen, and then a warrant for his arrest. If we found that we had probable cause to do that, a warrant for his arrest would have to get written, and then he would potentially have to get arrested. So, and in that situation, there could potentially be an emergency protective order issued, but he would have to be in custody for that to happen. Now, the reason I asked you if you had contacted the court, you can request a temporary protective order, but that's going to be something you have to do.
So here, and I get it. And again, I've done that. And did I have evidence of that? But here's where this plays out in court, right? One, temporary ex partes are completely legal and lawful. I go purchase forms in a law library. I fill them out. I attach evidence to them. And over the summer, there's 3 different judges based on what I put in in there. None that have ever been proven or even alleged to be false allegations, except for when attorney emails me or rants and raves about it in court, right? But nobody's ever filed that they've been false because they know that I will have proof that nothing that I've ever said to courts or law enforcement or CPS has ever been false. Everybody knows that, right? So you get your temporary ex parte for a period of time. You go to the final trial. You have certified records, even from psychologists, doctors, counselors. At this point, 8 people that believe the child, right? And that believe various different things that they've seen, that they've heard. They all have investigative skills when you're talking to children. They all work with children on both the Texas and Oklahoma side of the border. And what happens, I'm a mom going up against an attorney in court, and I start to say, so Your Honor, when I went to take her for her back issue that they have neglected to take her to for a year, her PCP in Frisco told me to go to hospital in Texas. Took her to hospital in Texas. She failed the suicide risk assessment. Social worker came in, interviewed her, made a report to CPS. Oklahoma called back and investigated. Denton County never even called. In April, when I was calling to say, hey, is this something they need to know about? Denton County said, I don't know why the screener said it's a thing. They're just customer service reps that sit in their living room. They don't know what they're talking about. Right? Like this is the thing we go through. So when I say, okay, I've got the certified records from the Children's Hospital attorney and custodian of records, Your Honor, objection. And so now they don't make it on the record. And so even though he's aware, yes, she has PTSD, right? Even though now multiple doctors and a psychologist have seen her and all of this evidence exists, because I'm a mom and not an attorney, and I'm begging and I'm saying, hey, can she have an advocate? Please don't make my daughter suffer, because I don't know how to overcome a barking attorney on the other side. And this is why we don't have a protected child. Make her suffer, because I don't know why counsel is saying, no. Judge, you can't look at these reports from a psychologist that says the child has PTSD because of dad. Like, again, why do I even fight these battles if I end up losing? And then she comes in waving a CPS report that somebody made in 2023, trying to say it was me. And I kept her from getting that in the record. I said, wait a minute, let me see that. I didn't call. I didn't even have her in 2023. I didn't have her, wasn't engaged. This has nothing to do with me. But thank you for corroborating what my daughter told me, which is when he jerked her back violently and she went to school with blood in her eye, she told me every single person at her school, from her teacher to the counselor to the principal, that all called, that all reported for dad's drinking buddy on the police force to come to school and tell her dad has the right to discipline you. I mean, what do I do with that? And if I keep pushing, now I'm the bad apple and I got police mad at me. I'm tired. I will put in records everything that I've got. But at this point, if she's going to be protected, the only thing I can do is be a parent that treats my child. And thankfully, me taking a stand this last time when everyone's like, there's nothing there, just stop clearing your throat. You don't have to clear your throat anymore. Or dad that gets mad at her and jerks her because common sense, she's being too loud, or in the middle of the night, shut the fuck up. She's sick. Thank God I took her to get an x-ray, because she had mucus plugs building all over her chest. And so now, because I did keep her home and follow the prescribed treatment the way they prescribed it, thank God they could say infection's clear, but unfortunately that does not fix the issue that your daughter's throat is still closing. And by the way, has there been any throat injury? Oh crap, I can't keep up with all of the reports. Yeah, he strangled her again. He choked her again on the 15th. Oh, that could be an issue. I mean, I feel like I'm damned if I do and I'm damned if I don't, Sergeant, to be honest. I just want to be a mom and I want a safe kid. But apparently I'm a liar and he's a choir boy. Apparently he doesn't have a 30-year career criminal record, which he does. Somebody in that department wrote an official record that he has no criminal record. Yet his CPS ex-fiance sent me his certified Texas criminal record. So how do I fight that? Someone doing investigations in your department says, no criminal record found. But his CPS ex-fiance and mother of a second child sent it to me.
Well, we run a criminal history through an official database. I don't know where CPS gets their criminal history. So if a detective ran his criminal history and they're saying he has no criminal history, then he has no criminal history. We run it through a database, a national database that checks every state and territory in the United States. And if it says that he has no criminal history and his information was ran correctly, then it's that he has no criminal history. So I don't know. I haven't
I could give you his information right
so I don't know.
I could give you his information right now. It's undisputed because
them to run his criminal history. So I'm not going to do that. I'll let Detective Barfield do that.
right.
But what I'm going to do is I'm going to pass you off to Officer Keys. Officer Keys will get your information and document everything that you want to tell him. And then the information will be passed off to, I would assume it'll probably be Detective Barfield. But there's several detectives now that work child crime. So,
Ouch. Okay. I mean, yeah.
Other than Officer Keys taking a report tonight, is there anything else that I can help you with?
I mean, if you think that is the best thing to do as far as on y'all's end, then yes, I will do that.
It's not on our end. If you want to file a criminal offense report for the strangulation, an officer will take the report and it will get passed up to Detective Barfield. If that's something that you would like to do, then we will document anything and everything you want to tell us. And if you have any corroborating evidence for your allegations, we'll submit that with the case, and then it'll get sent up to a detective, and the detective will then investigate it. So that's completely up to you then.
I mean, do you guys take the reports for medical neglect that results in further injury as well, or just the choking situation?
We will document anything that you want us to document.
Okay. I mean, I just so it's clear. I mean, I basically was just calling to see if you guys want to give clearance to send her back.
I'm not giving any kind of clearance. That's not my authority. So my authority is in the criminal law, and if you want us to file a criminal offense report for medical neglect and for the strangulation, we will take a report for that. It will be investigated by a detective.
Okay, I mean, you can have them. I tell you what, just because I have to manage bandwidth and it's late, can you ask Detective Keys to just email me the witness statement and then I can just send it back?
That's not how that works. So an officer will take the report. So we can do one of two things. We can do one of two things. The officer will call you. He will get a statement from you. Whatever you want to report to us. You submit. He'll send you a link to Axon, and you can submit whatever evidence you want to submit. And then the report will get filed with Detective Barfield. The second option, you can call Detective Barfield either tomorrow or Monday. I don't know if he's working tomorrow. But you can call him tomorrow or Monday and speak with him and figure out what the status of the CPS investigation is, and go from there and see if he already has this information. He may have this information already from Oklahoma. If you've already talked to a detective there.
Yeah, the report, I mean, the number you gave me does sound different than the two CPS numbers that I was given. So that is your actual police, like kind of simultaneous investigations y'all are doing, right? So the one you gave me is the police department case number.
Correct.
Do you have strangulation or the whole?
I don't know. I don't have access to look at the CPS referral that is in there. When I was a detective, I did, but I don't have access to look at that right now. So he is going to have to look at that and figure out what it's for, what is already being investigated. But yeah, so that's up to you if you want to talk to him on Monday and see kind of what the status is of that.
So I just have a question, a thought. You guys have I think his name is Eldington. I could be wrong. But you guys have a school resource officer that works in the schools that is also, I guess, a dual employee with your police department, right?
He is employed by our city.
So in that situation, if there is, I mean, if you're telling me you do see an open investigation, police investigation in your system, would it possibly make sense to notify him and let him tell the school, kind of based on the law, you know, yeah, there's court orders, there's a child enrolled, but there is an active criminal investigation going on, where he can communicate that to the school? Is that an option?
Tell them what?
I mean, just that you guys have an active criminal investigation going on.
That doesn't change anything. The school is legally bound by other things than we are. So if the school says, hey, we're not giving this child medications or whatever, that's something that you'll have to follow up with the school on. We don't.
Yeah, no, I wasn't talking about them not giving medication. I wasn't talking about that. What I was saying is just even communicating to them, since he works with the school anyways, that yes, there is a open Colony PD investigation going on.
We don't share information about open investigations. We don't go out and just tell the public people's information like that. So if you wanted to call the school and tell them that there's an open investigation, you could do that. But we're not going to go to the school and say, oh, hey, guess what? This little girl right here has got a open CPS investigation and a criminal thing going on. And if it comes down to like a safety thing where we think dad might come up to the school and harm her or harm somebody else or something like that, then yes. But and our detectives are very good at what they do. And if they feel like there's a reason for the school to be notified about something that might put the child at harm, then they'll do that.
Oh yeah, no. I was saying I was saying because since he works both with the school and the department, and they seem to, I mean, there's reports that I've gotten that have said that there's a supplemental note with Detective Ellington or SRO Ellington. So apparently there is communication, I know, that already goes on between the school and the police, because they've referenced him being a part of stuff before. So that's why I was just wondering.
They probably, that's kind of a one-way street there. They tell us stuff, but we don't communicate with them the status of our investigations. That's not how that goes. We don't share. When we have an active investigation going on, we don't share any information with the school unless it's relevant to the safety of the children or employees of the school.
Okay, I gotcha. All right. Well, okay. Well, yes, I got, what you're saying, and having, you said Detective Keys or Officer Keys reach out to me.
Yeah.
Is that what you, okay.
Yeah.
And then they can send me the form or the link or whatever to put it in writing, then I can do that. That's no problem.
Yeah. Okay. So I will have Officer Keys contact you here in the next couple minutes. And
Okay.
you can give him whatever information you'd like to give him.
Okay. Alrighty. Sergeant Bell, I appreciate you and your time. And,
Thank you.
yes, sir. Take care. Be safe. Thank you. Mm-hmm. Bye.
Okay. I guess there's nothing I necessarily have to turn off except to maybe just stop sharing my screen. So I'll try to do that. Stop sharing. Okay. So unfortunately, I can't really tell if anyone is still live right now. I have seen some comments that have come through. And Sunsets_streams, you're correct. You said it should never cost money to protect our children from abuse. And I think that was my point that I was trying to get across is, I'm being told you need to get an attorney. And I'm wondering where is free attorney row, right? Where you just go pick up an attorney out of the clear blue sky, absent $350 to $450 an hour, where I'm from and where our jurisdiction is in Collin County, which is about the going rate. Furthermore, have a situation where then he's talking about, well, you're going to have to get experts to prove it was medical neglect or it was the abuse. And again, I don't know about you, but I'm very confused. Why am I paying experts and I'm talking to a literal law enforcement officer? Their job is to protect and serve. Literally, that is what they are employed by taxpayers to do. Child protection services, again, like literally in the name and theme of what they do is about protection. So while as I mentioned to him, as a mom, right, I'm taking care of my daughter to get her well. Yes, I'm having to deal with all of the threats and demands from the school and dad's attorney. Yes, also in a period of grieving for a son that is still not buried yet, and that has multiple reasons and dynamics to that, which quite frankly is not up for ridicule, as has been done in the TRO affidavit of my daughter's father. Despicable move. Needing to work, needing to pay bills, needing to live my life. Where does being a full-time, unpaid, either paying $350 to $450 an hour for an attorney or doing it myself, then having to be an investigator to determine what actually happened, and then I'm hiring experts to get ready to have to prove what is going on, when the reality is, yes, he's outlining processes that are within the confines of what law enforcement's supposed to do. And so this audio was literally how I ended my 45th birthday on October 31st. There is another audio right after that that is with the officer he said he's going to pass me on to. So again, I have unlimited time. It's late at night, right? My daughter and I, we were home. I wanted to be being a mom and dealing with that. And it was my birthday. But instead, I'm having to engage in an hour-and-a-half long conversations with law enforcement, as you heard me say, and you heard him say. We had spoken previously on the 21st. You heard him say the detective that did actually orchestrate the fraudulent illegal arrest warrant and my illegal and lawful imprisonment. You did hear him say, we're talking on the 31st, but he's actually had the case since the 21st. And as an officer from that same department that is saying, wait a minute, we already have something in our system, someone already reported it. I haven't gone over the arrest warrant affidavit yet, but what I can say is, for all that got to see it while I was still in custody, I clearly wasn't the one who reported it. If they're advising me, we actually already have a case with our police department, and you're talking to us for the first time. But that's actually what was alleged in the arrest warrant. So you hear him continuing to say, you need to go to court and get a protective order. You need to make a decision whether you return your child or not. Yes, it's true. You have a duty to protect under the law. No, we're not giving you clearance. You have to, you have to, you have to, you have to. And I'm continuing to say, anytime I move or do anything, it backfires and slaps me in the face, which is exactly where I am now, right? Bringing her to a forensic interview, getting arrested, which I do believe is witness tampering, because this conversation proves they are seeing me as, and yes, I would be a witness to corroborating evidence, her medical condition, what is being said, what's being done. But if you take that person and you stick them in jail with a warrant that does not give authority for anyone in Oklahoma to touch them, that puts them outside of the jurisdiction that allegedly wants them, where they can't be bonded out and they are stuck literally in silence, stowed away in jail, have you tampered with their ability to be able to follow up? You absolutely have. Have you obstructed justice of official, ongoing, pending police, criminal, and child protection government investigations that were active. Exactly. That is absolutely what they did. And again, the detective that did the warrant did not contact me for 10 days. So like I said, again, I don't want to fight with law enforcement. I don't want to push. He's actually already been included in the email where he got the doctor's notes that something is wrong. So he was aware. I included the court order that the instructions are if the child's not returned for any reason, parent B, that would be me, has to notify parent A, that would be dad, and the school. He was literally BCC'd in those chains. We're talking about the detective, or now Sergeant Barfield, that issued the false arrest warrant affidavit to the judge to get that signed. So I'm calling in asking, can I please return her and be cleared of failure to protect? And he's telling me, no, we have in our system, he's handling it. But I never got a phone call and I never got an email back. And where was the real investigation if there was never any request even for more of the medical records to prove that I had just taken a breathing machine home that day? That urgent care after a second round of x-rays said my daughter needed. And somehow with this conversation that you just heard, literally 6 days later, apparently the warrant was obtained on the 5th, 5 days later, no phone call back to me, no email back to me. I take her to her forensic interview that we also discussed, and he is confirming, yep, this sounds right. This is the process. I'm clearly cooperating. And that winds up getting me swiped off the street, placed in a jail. My daughter sent immediately back. I have not put it out there, but the pleadings say literally they held her long enough so dad can come get her. No legitimate investigation. 2 witnesses tampered with, silenced. The other one as a vulnerable child taken back into an environment. Dad, school, police, CPS, everyone's saying you're fine. Shut the F up. Be more quiet. Just stop clearing your throat. There's nothing to see here, even though medical records and x-rays showed a lot to see here that didn't require mom's allegations, the child's disclosures of coaching. You cannot coach x-rays or medical records. Didn't coach them in 2016. Haven't coached them in 2024 any other time. One thing that was interesting and laughable to me is when we talk about dad's 30-year criminal record, right? That yes, his former CPS counselor, licensed professional counselor, supervisor, second child's mother, they have about a 3-year-old now, that she sent me, right? She sent me in 2021 when she reached out to me and their child was 6 weeks old, and she realized, oops, maybe you weren't the demon he's told us and everybody about for years, because now I'm having problems with him too. And by the way, if you could get your freedom and we can both go after him together, that'd be great. Of course, she didn't mention the part where she was a drug and alcohol counselor, a CPS counselor, and all of that stuff. I found that out when I happened to look at the criminal report and put the email address into Google. And here we have it. So anyways, my questions were, how long does it take you to get confused, frustrated, whatever you got? And then what would you do? I believe most of us, like I have believed, trust, count on, rely on, depend on, and appreciate our child protective services, air quotes, our law enforcement, protecting and serving, air quotes, authorities to do their jobs and do them well. Oftentimes, I'll get a reminder from dad's attorney, you're not an attorney, and I'll tell her you're right. And I don't actually want to be. I don't actually even want to be. I don't want to be a part of a system that does this to children and safe, protective parents. I want to be a mom. In 2 days, when I wake up on Wednesday morning, I'll be going into my TRO to fight to not continue to have my parent-child relationship, my daughter's parent-child relationship with me and her maternal family further interfered with and impeded without relief, without redress, without resolve, based on lies that this audio in contrast to the arrest warrant affidavit, proves the math isn't mathing. So I wanted to definitely get this out here and share and just see what would anyone else think about it, right? And ultimately, what would anyone else do? Do we believe that the job of child protection services and police actually rests with them? Or do we believe and agree that it's up to you? It's up to me. How long did it take you? And what would you do? Thank you for those of you that tuned in. I know this was a long one. I am going to try to figure out how to do lives where I can actually see comments and respond better. Those of you that were on Instagram, thank you so much. I was able to see your comments. Thank you for joining me. I hope that wherever you are in the world, in the US, that you're having a wonderful evening, morning, whatever the case may be. I hope that you are continuing to hang in there and stay strong, whether you're dealing with these similar dynamics, same script, different cast, for your own children, for some child that you love, that you know in your jurisdiction, whether you're doing as an advocate, in whatever capacity that you're standing up for the most vulnerable, continue to please keep standing up. Look, am I saying that every law enforcement officer, every child protection worker, every attorney, every judge, every fill in the blank is bad? No, I'm not. But I'm saying when we have audios, dialogues, dynamics like this, I think it lends the question for all of us to ask. What do you do with this child protection catch-22? And in terms of complete and utter confusion, frustration, limitation, oppression, how long does it take you to get to that point in the conversation? And what do you do? I'd love to hear from you. I know many of you will watch the replay. Feel free to leave your comments. Definitely still would love to have legal counsel. But unfortunately, also, I will tell you, talked with some very seasoned, high quality attorneys that understand both the family law and the criminal aspect of our case, very complex. They've said we need a $10,000 retainer just to review your case and probably won't even get to a hearing. And that was over a 12-day period when I was navigating through TROs of protective orders in the summer, end of last school year for her, fourth grade year, from mid-April to mid-August. And all the things he was telling me to do, I had done appropriately, honestly, outlining them, and 3 judges, based on me filling out the packets, agreed with me, all for it to end on August 12th with me having certified custodian of records, authenticated documents in court from a psychologist that I wasn't allowed to present, for her to be returned anyways, to immediately within a week get sick, be sick 2 months later, and wind up with the situation you heard described and talked about. I mean, and now they want me to go in and do it again. I heard the judge say high conflict one time. That was a cue for me. What's the point? What's the point? I just did what he was telling me to do. Dotted all my I's, crossed all my T's, and where did it get me and my daughter? Her right back in the same situation, narrowing airway at her larynx, her voice box. Mucus plugs in her chest, yelled at, screamed at, disciplined, dismissed, negated, and now taken from her mother. There's got to be a better way. Thanks for tuning in. I appreciate you guys, and hope that you'll like, comment, subscribe, follow, share. This is new to me, but I'm going to try to do this a lot more, and hopefully somehow, some way, together as a community, as a society, we're going to get to a better day than this. This Child Protection 22, catch-22 has got to, it's got to end, right? Shouldn't be this difficult, like one of you said, to protect children. Shouldn't be an issue of commodification, money, to see what child is going to be protected or not. So with that, you'll have a wonderful evening. Love y'all. Appreciate you. Thank you. Bye.